Hey gang, it is Wednesday, May 10th, 2017, and this will be part 3 in the video series on the Brooklyn Pony. And I've been working on getting the convertible top moving. I had to free it up, it was rusted pretty good. I've been soaking it with lubricants, and I've been able to get it to go up and down fairly easily. It's going to need more attention later, but the goal is to get that assembly off today. And to do that, it's really pretty simple. There's only 6 bolts. There's these 3 on the passenger side and the same 3 on the driver's side, same location. So I'll collapse this down, get it, reset or down in the back of the car like it was, take out those bolts, and then the whole thing should come out without any issue. I did note that I knew they were going to be bad. The cylinders, well, this is a rod that was in the cylinder, and basically it just came right out. So the cylinders of course are junk. I don't even know if they could be salvaged or rebuilt or not. I'm not going to worry about that. Now once I get this top off the assembly, I will work on getting this exterior sheet metal, the rain gutter as I talked about previously, this filler panel, and this assembly, let's say, out here. Now what I find interesting is this rain gutter is not attached to the wheelhouse, at least not at this point. It is attached back here to the inner wheelhouse, which is part of the support structure for this filler panel and the hinges. So I will separate the welds here, and I will separate what's left of the welds here, what the seam of the wheelhouse. You can see this bracing goes down. You can see it out here a little better, but I will get that separated, and then I will cut around here to separate the B-pillar and any bracing that's attached to it. That'll all come out together. The only thing that I will separate from the rest of the assembly is right here. I've got these welds that hold this main piece, which is attached to the whole inner structure here, and it'd be too difficult to try to pull all of this out in one big piece. If you can imagine, when they were building this at the factory, more than likely they would have had that as an assembly, and then these exterior pieces come in. They would not have had this as one big chunk and set it down in place. So thinking about how I'm going to put it back together on the new floor pan, I need to work from that piece back out. So it won't hurt anything to separate these, plus I'll have an exact location of where they were, and I'll be able to put the welds back in. So once I get this out, like I said, all these areas separated, and get the rain gutter up and out of the way, that'll be the next task, is getting this assembly out. And what I found is there's a series of welds that run along this perimeter here on the wheelhouse. There are some more of those back here on this bracing, and then of course there will be welds across the floor where it meets the main hump above the differential housing, and same thing on the other side. So I think that's a good start to get these separated here and all those, and along with that I will separate here these welds to the inner wheelhouse, and that'll all stay together as an assembly. I don't think there's anything in the middle. There's no reason they should have, and I know there will be welds running across this bottom, and of course I'll have to get this bracing all come out with it, what's left of it. I may have to fabricate that piece, which isn't a big deal, it's just a brace, but I'll look at that further as I move along. So that's the goal, and I'll see if I can't get some of this out. may wonder what I'm doing. I'm trying to expose the welds because I have to remove this piece of metal, which is what's left of the quarter panel, from the filler. And it's probably easier to do while it's still attached to the car, but that's my goal here, is just find the welds and be able to expose them. Now this may not be as critical. I may be able to just cut that and get this piece out of the way, but this needs to be separated right here. And then the same thing down here, where the spot welds are that hold this brace to the outer wheel or inner wheelhouse. So that's what I'm doing. So to point out this little detail as I move along. You know, these holes really don't matter what size right now, because I'll probably enlarge them later for when I'm getting ready to weld, but this gets missed a lot. This little lip here, it rolls over and overlaps the quarter. And so I'm trying to work to separate that without destroying what's left of the original piece right here. So people just tend to not notice that, but that's just one of the ways that this was built. This rolled over that edge and kind of lapped it. Left in there, clean right up. I'll take care of some of that. I don't have to do it all right now, but I want to get this separated while it's there. So I'll do the same thing on the other side and then continue from there. Alright, so now I'm going to try to tackle these here. What I did, again, took my sanding disc and went over the rusted metal to reveal where the spot welds are. Should be able to see them there. There's one, there's one, there's one up here. And I'm going to drill those, but I'm not going to try to drill through both panels. I only want to really get through the first panel. And I'm going to use a slightly larger bit so that it'll make a bigger hole rather than a small one that's not going to relieve the weld. So let's see how that goes. These spot welds are weird. They're not round. They're kind of elongated. Go at an angle a little bit different. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time. I'll continue separating that Well, surprisingly, it only took a couple more hits. The other one's all separated. So that's good. Now I can do the same thing on the other side and get it apart, and then I'll continue to work on getting the rest of this structure loose. And then again, back here at the wheelhouse, that other brace. Alright, I have both sides loose now. Here and there. And that leads me to my favorite tool, the plasma cutter. So the plan is to plasma cut around the V-pillar, that brace. I'll probably just cut this around, just easier that way since it's easy to access. And the other thing was this inner structure here. I'll just cut the flange off of the wheelhouse and take it with it. So I think that'll do it. I'm going to get started. I'll show you where I'm at so far. I'm going to let the plasma cutter cool down a little bit. But I didn't realize, I knew it was in there, but I didn't really think about it. And I'm going to have to separate the inner structure because the panel is all lapped together, the inner and the outer rocker. So in order to get this to come off, I'm going to have to separate that. So I may cut a bigger chunk out and then work my way across. Otherwise, I went ahead and cut most of this piece loose and cut there where it meets the wheelhouse, and then of course cut out this back section around the wheelhouse. Yeah, not much holding it together now. Well, that took a little longer than I wanted it to. However, I took a different approach. I was able to drill out the spot welds here and here, and then I just took the plasma cutter and burned through those welds around this perimeter on this support. I freed that up. There was another bit down here that had to be cut off, and just a few little pieces hanging on, and so now this whole side is loose. So I'll repeat that on the other side and have that out of the way soon. As it turns out, this passenger side is so rusted, a few hits with a chisel really, and this whole front section came loose. So all I have to do is cut out around this brace that's holding the support for the hinges. Well, now that that is out of the way, that gives me some more room to start separating these welds, as I talked about earlier. And the welds here, which run to the inner wheelhouse. And then I'll have to separate the brace down here, figure out what's remaining behind this edge that may or may not have anything attached. And then here I'll have all these spot welds across that I'm sure I'll have to drill out. So that'll take a little while. But it should separate pretty easily, I think. These are just edges, welds on the edge there. We shall see. Now the other part of this, with this structure removed, I will take it apart. I'll take the glass out, the inner bracing and all that stuff, trying to lighten it up as much as I can, and maybe even remove, well, I will remove the assemblies here for the hinges, and just try to get this as lightweight as I can so that when I'm moving it around I don't run the risk of twisting it and damaging it. And also I'll probably take it to a friend of mine who has a blaster. Go ahead and blast this, clean it up, do any repairs that I need to do to it, and then go from there. I'm considering probably replacing these B-pillar structures and maybe this inner brace. I think they sell a kit for that, and that's fine. Can't save everything, and you know, this car's pretty rough, and if I have to do that, I'll do that. So on to getting the rest of this bracing out. Well, I got the wheelhouses out of the way. I'm chuckling because the only thing holding this wheelhouse on the passenger side, besides, you know, these welds and a couple little welds up here, was this corner. All this wasn't even attached, and it wasn't even attached here to the rocker. So once I cut that all loose, it basically just fell down in. On the passenger side, I had to cut a little more. The back half where it meets the trunk was attached, but everything forward of that was not. I shouldn't be surprised, I guess. But again, I'm going to continue to work on getting this structure loose and see what's usable. I thought this was funny too. I have some jack stands underneath the front, but I think maybe the sealant was holding this thing together. That's pretty scary. Anyway, I'll keep on plugging away. Well, I was making a little bit of progress. I got all these holes drilled on this back flange, and this separated like nothing. There's nothing holding that together on either side. And this bracing here, that's separate. So, into looking at it, there's obviously some sort of, or was some sort of a welded pattern here, but most of that is just deteriorated or gone. But the real problem I'm having right now is the second flange inside here. You can just see there, I drilled one out already, one spot weld, but these other ones are hidden behind, and I'm not sure how they would have built this at the factory, because I guess they could probably have some sort of spot welder that would get in there, but I don't know. They may have built this assembly first and then put these pieces on the outside, and they could have went across through somehow. So I got to figure that out. I may just take the plasma cutter, and I can see another spot weld there. There's not a lot of them, and I may just burn through those, be done with them, because it's right on the edge. Can't really drill that, and there's no way to, I mean, being on the edge, you'd have a hole on the edge, so not going to hurt anything to hit it with the plasma cutter. So that's where I'm at right now, just trying to get these final pieces loose so I can finish off the back of the car. Well, I didn't realize that the battery had died on the camera, so as I was cutting stuff away, the back end actually dropped, and I didn't catch it. So it's sitting up right now. I'm still trying to get this panels cut loose, and I also had a small problem with my plasma cutter. Some of the expendable tip needed the expendable tip needed to be replaced, and I had to run to Harbor Freight to pick one up. So I'm going to keep on cutting. I guess I should probably explain why I'm doing what I'm doing here. As I said before, I was working on separating this flange, which it did separate fine, and I have that internal flange, but there seems to be a few more spot welds than I could see, hard to get to. So the idea is I'm going to take apart or remove this top section, and I'll attack it from the other side, and hopefully I can access where the spot welds are and break everything out of the way. I think I'm getting close. I've already cut loose the springs. Well, I know I did on that side. I still may have to cut a couple things loose over here. But anyway, that's the plan, and I'll see if I can't get it out. Well, that was today's goal, to get that stuff out. It may not have been the way that I planned on doing it, but that's what happens. You adapt, adjust. So yeah, now there's even less of the car here. The only thing holding it together is the drive shaft and these parking brake cables, which they're not usable, so I'll just cut them off. And that'll take care of the back half of the car as far as disassembly goes. And then I still need to work on getting the lower structure out of this support. So it's been a good day. I think I may, maybe I'll just call this part 3 and leave it at that. Don't want to wait, don't want to waste too much time. And yeah, I'm happy with it. So once again, thanks for watching.